YouTube, hey, Casey Dim and TaxSaleAcademy.com. Thank you so much for joining me as I record an episode for the Tax Sale Podcast. Hey, if you're the type of person that loves listening to podcasts, whether it's at the gym, in the bus, on the car, wherever it may be, check out TaxSalePodcast.com, where we post 2 tax sale investing episodes every single week. Again, that's TaxSalePodcast.com. Let's go ahead and switch on over to the audio portion of this podcast and get started. Welcome to the Tax Sale Podcast, where tax sale investing is made easy. I'm Casey Dim, and I'm a tax sale veteran, expert, and trainer, the author of the Tax Sale Playbook, founder of the Tax Sale Academy, and I'm your host right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. And as always, at the conclusion of this podcast, if you are looking to learn more about investing in tax defaulted real estate, head on over to TaxSaleAcademy.com. Again, that's TaxSaleAcademy.com. All right, today we're discussing something that's so important for all aspects of business, but is often overlooked. We're talking about developing a plan for your tax sale investment business. Sure, the stuff that you can take immediate action on is where so much of our attention seems to go. Getting the tax sale list, attending the auctions, selling those properties, and everything in between. But before you can even get this far, you must have a plan established for your tax sale business if you want to see any long-term success. Now, I can sit here and I can tell you every single week on this podcast exactly what to do and exactly how to do it. I can tell you all the actionable stuff. I can go into great detail and provide the step-by-step process of doing everything required as a tax sale investor inside the academy. But the deal is, without some sort of long-term game plan, you'll eventually fail in this business, or you're just going to get burned out and you won't see the success that you desire. So, in today's podcast episode, let's go over an outline, a 5-step outline that will help you determine and develop your own plan of attack when it comes to succeeding long-term in this business. The first step is absolutely the most important step. Learn what you're doing. I've said it time and time again, but I've spent the better part of my life in tax sale investing. Just about half of my life has been spent in this business, and I can promise you that the most crucial thing you can do and the largest ROI on your investment will be the time that you invest in yourself to learn how to properly invest as a tax sale investor. And I'm not saying this because I'm in the educational space. In fact, if you follow me for any time now, you probably know that when it comes to providing information, providing completely free tax sale trainings, there's nobody in the world that even comes close to offering as much as I do. Again, without cost. So it's not like a plug or anything like that. But if you want to see step-by-step process that I've used to see success, then join the academy. If you don't want to, that's okay. Learn however you can. But the fact of the matter is, you must learn. And understand, it's going to take time, it's going to take effort, and it will absolutely 100% take money. And here's the kicker, guys. This whole thing, this whole learning thing will never, ever end. Or at least it should never, ever end if you want to see long-term sustainable success. That's right, this isn't grade school where you just go in and you memorize the answers for the test. You complete that test as quickly as possible before you forget anything, and then a day later, you have absolutely no idea what you learned in the first place. We've all done that, right? But that's not tax sale investing. Learning as a tax sale investor will never, ever end. I continue to learn every single day. I learn and develop new strategies. I learn about markets. I learn techniques. I learn from other investors. And I probably learn the most from my very own Tax Sale Academy members. Learn now and forever. It's so extremely important. And on a side note, guys, if you want to know the number one way to fail in this business, to absolutely ensure that you will not ever succeed, then it's exactly the opposite of this, which is to start investing and or continue investing without taking the time to learn what you're doing. That's right. I don't recommend it, of course, but if you want to fail, go ahead, buy a few properties without knowing anything about tax sale investing. That's a surefire way to fail. All right. So after you've learned what you're doing, the next step is to determine exactly what style of investing you want to be involved with. Essentially, there are tax liens and tax deeds in this business. A tax lien is a priority lien against a piece of property where you will typically end up earning a rate of interest of some sort on your investment, and that investment, of course, is backed by real estate. Tax deed investing is where you actually buy the tax foreclosed property. In a nutshell, and once you factor in all the averages and stuff, you will typically make less of a return off of a tax lien, but it will also be less work since you don't actually have to sell the property. A tax deed will result in higher returns, but it will also require much more effort on the back end since you actually have to sell the property to realize that return. It's important to note that many of my students do invest both in tax liens and tax deeds, so you don't have to draw a line in the sand that says you will never invest in this one or that one. You can actually invest in both, but to start off with, you'll need to pick one. Now, once you determine what type of investment you prefer to make, that will really narrow down the states that you can invest in, since some states offer tax liens and some only offer tax deeds. From there, of course, you'll need to narrow down your county. There are quite a few steps in determining the best area, the best county for you, but if you're an Academy member and you haven't yet viewed the investing out of area workshops that I've done, be sure to take a look as they're incredibly helpful with this process. The next step in developing your tax sale plan is to create your budget. And I get questions all the time about this, guys. How big should my budget be? That's really like asking me, how fast should I drive my car? There is no answer that's going to apply to everybody. It depends on way too many factors. Your budget will need to be between $100 and $100,000 to start. And that's about, honestly, the best answer that I can give you guys. If you're in some parts of the country and or you aren't looking for a huge return, then $100 can get you started. In other areas, you're going to need $50,000 or $100,000 to even start. There's very few areas, but some areas are like that in the richest parts of the country. So, how do you find out how much you need? Well, it all starts with the first step about learning what you're doing. And of course, that led us to the second step about determining what type of investment you'll be making and where you're going to invest, which of course by now leads us to having a very, very solid idea based on all this information combined of the amount of money that you will reasonably need to be successful as a tax sale investor in the area that you're investing in based on your specific investment objectives. So while I can't answer that question precisely and say you need exactly this amount of money, what I can do is to remind you that you will determine exactly how much you need by learning what you're doing. So learn what you're doing, and then you must create your budget and of course figure out a way to meet that budget. Whether it's going to be through cash, loans, or some other method, perhaps one that we discussed in our funding episode a few weeks back. Now, once you've reached this point, you really need to continue to dial in that learning process. And you can do this by actively practicing, which is our next step. Now, I did an episode on this a few weeks back, so I don't want to go into a bunch of deep detail here, but that episode was titled 5 Ways to Practice Tax Sale Investing, and I highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't yet. What I can tell you is that the best way to develop confidence and knowledge as a brand new tax sale investor is to practice. There's nothing that compares to learning and applying this knowledge without actually having to invest your hard-earned money, especially if you're uncertain. The best way to do this is to get involved in the business. Access your list, research those lists, do drive-bys, register to bid, attend auctions, analyze auction results, talk to other investors, talk to realtors, talk to appraisers, attend open houses, get involved, plain and simple. And the last part of your plan should be to execute and grow. The step leading up to this, to practice, is performed to build your confidence and familiarity with the tax sale process. If you're not ready yet, or you're not comfortable, then continue learning and continue practicing. If you never feel like you're going to be comfortable or you're always going to have reservations, then join the Tax Sale Academy. Or if you don't do that, get some sort of coaching one-on-one with a mentor if you have to. Now, as a caveat here, I don't want you to immediately rush to step number 5 and start buying a bunch of properties and skipping the first 4 steps. You have to learn what you're doing. You have to take the time to develop that training, to practice, to know how to perform due diligence, to know how to value properties, all that kind of stuff. Don't rush into an investment. Be patient. But when you're ready, when you're prepared, take advantage of the first good opportunity that comes your way. Then, when you make your first sale, or you receive your first redemption, reinvest that money and do it over and over and over again and allow it to snowball until the point where you reach that you can begin taking money out. Don't immediately cash out all of your money the first time you turn a profit. Allow your capital to grow, which will ultimately grow your business and, of course, your personal financial well-being. So there's 5 steps to developing your tax sale plan. Learn what you're doing. Determine the type of investment you want to make. Determine and find a way to meet your budget. Practice, and then execute and grow. Guys, if you'd like to learn more about investing in tax defaulted real estate, including the step-by-step process that I myself, as well as many of my students, have used to see success in this business, head on over to taxsaleacademy.com. Again, that's taxsaleacademy.com. And if you aren't quite ready to join the academy, consider heading to taxsaleacademy.com and picking up your free copy of Tax Sale Playbook. Just cover shipping, and we will get it out in the mail to you. Shipping is $4.97 in the USA, and I promise you, it'll be a very, very worthwhile investment of that $5. All right, guys, as always, if you do enjoy this episode, please take the time to leave us a positive review, and it will really mean the world to us. Take care and make it a successful day. See ya.